Hey, what is up, awesome people? ShadyWags here, and I'm going to be sharing with some of my thoughts, opinions, and my builds, plus some of the strategies I've been using while playing Alani. Now, first off, I'm going to admit that I was mistaken about Alani. Originally, I thought she was overpowered, and the reason for that was I kept getting killed by players using her over and over, so I just kind of assumed she was overpowered. Well, it's not that she's overpowered, it's that she's a massive kill stealer. There were matches when I was using Alani, I tallied up as much as 13, 14, 15 kills, and I didn't even deserve half of those. I would roll up into a battle where it was near the end, and for whatever reason, I would end up getting the knockout. And I think that's one of the reasons, if you play Alani, you're going to have a huge target on your back. People have this misconception that she is overpowered. The other thing I have noticed is that she does extend the length of group battles, which is in turn extending the length of games. So generally, it is a good tactic to try to take her out first. If we look at her character card, everything on her card is spot on. She is support, a healer, a controller, and complex. She is by far the most complex character I have played in Battleborn. And you could play her typically two different ways, as an attacking self-healer or as a defensive group healer. But within those two playstyles, there are different choices you're going to need to make, which will alter her greatly as well. Let's go ahead and look at her skills. Her primary weapon is Torrent, where she slowly downloads illegal music, movies, and games. No, just kidding. She hurls bolts of water at her target, and on its own, this is rather weak compared to some of the other characters' primary attacks. If you are in a fight where exchanging range attacks back and forth, she is not going to do as much damage as those other ranged characters. But where she ends up winning these fights is that she can keep herself healed up in those encounters. She also has a short-range secondary strike, which I never found very useful. Her passive is Osmosis, and as she hits targets, this will begin to fill the 3 water orbs. These orbs affect her skills and talent, and the more water she has in those orbs, the stronger the effect will be. Her talent is Wellspring. This is a single target heal. When you target over a friendly, you will see a water icon, and by pulling the left trigger, you will heal them. The amount of the heal is determined by the amount of water in those orbs. If you do not have a target, Alani will heal herself for half the amount. Her first skill is Riptide, a wave that pushes the enemy back, dealing direct damage, and any teammates that are hit by the wave will be sped up, as well as Alani herself. Her second skill is Geyser. You will notice when she casts this, there is a green circle on the ground, and enemies caught in the radius will be knocked up into the air and bound by a bubble for 1 second. And her ultimate is Emergence. This is an area effect that initially does direct damage and then continues dealing damage over time for 4 seconds. The first build I'll be going over is the build I have been using in capture matches and have had great success with this. I've been able to get a lot of kills and very few deaths. Alani's weaknesses are that she has slow movement speed, and without a shield, she's pretty squishy. This is a damage build that focuses on healing yourself and survivability through escape. The equipment I was using in this build is a common crystal collector, attack damage gloves, which are granting a boost to maximum health, and a necklace, which is providing a healing received bonus, as well as taking advantage of her lack of a shield and adding on additional healing received while shields are depleted. At level 1, I'm taking Soothing Mist, so the Riptide wave will heal friendly targets, including you. At 2, Surface Tension. Any enemies hit by Geyser are going to take additional damage, and any enemies near that target that was hit by Geyser are going to take damage also. This right here is one of the main reasons I think that Alani kill steals so much. At 3, you need to determine how aggressively the other team is coming after you. If they're selling out and forgetting about everyone else and keying in on you, and you're getting those double teams, I would go with kinetic diffusion to increase your movement speed. If you seem to be getting a lot of one-on-one fights or your team is getting the numbers in your favor, go with white water for that increased attack speed. At 4, I always take Ride the Wave. This is going to give you an escape option. It's going to keep you alive and it'll keep your deaths to a minimum. At any time you're in a situation where you know the chances of you surviving do not look good, or if you're pinned in a corner, or if you're coming out of a CC, you can hit that Riptide and get out of that situation quickly. It's also going to give you the speed and regen effects. At 5, Karaka Fruit Express, this is where we get a damage boost, and that's going to stack with the equipment damage boost. And then, when we bind enemies in that geyser with surface tension, it's going to add even more damage. This is the Helix power-up that's going to get you a lot of those kills. At 6, Refresher. So now when you do need to escape, not only are you getting the speed and regen boost, but you're also now going to gain osmosis stacks. So at the end of that Riptide, you can decide if you want to turn and fight with that increased damage, or you can go ahead and heal yourself. At 7, Overflow to increase the minimum healing amount. You're probably not going to make it this far in a capture match, but if you do, I would go ahead and take Pressure Valve if your team is ahead and you're getting a lot of one-on-one advantage situations. If the match is still close, I'd probably lean towards Old Trustworthy, and if it's a blowout, well, then it's not really going to matter either way. At 9, Waterproof, increasing the distance you're going to travel on that Riptide. Then at 10, Undertow for the slowing effect while players are inside the emergence. I normally hate people who do this, especially when the match is in question, but with Alani, it greatly benefits her to level quickly. If you have the chance, I would try to kill the Varelsi to get those extra levels. How this build works in one-on-one situations, you have to determine when and where to place Geyser. So you're going to stay back firing torrents and then start slowly backing away. Normally players playing Umbra, Atticus, Boulder, Deandy, Eldragon, Galea, Kelvin are going to attempt to close that distance. You're going to look down at the ground and place that geyser at your feet, and most of the time they're going to walk right into it. Now that they've walked into that geyser, they're going to get that 30% extra damage on them due to surface tension. Start firing on them while they're in the bubble, and if you have Karaka Fruit Express active, you're going to start gaining osmosis and extra damage. That right there should be more than enough to take anyone out. If they do get out of that and they are low on health, then you can Riptide over them and go for the KO. Now for the rest of the long range players, it's going to be a back and forth exchange, but where you have the advantage is that you can heal yourself. As far as placing Geyser, you're just going to have to try to anticipate their movement. If you do get them caught, then it's going to be the same result with that damage stack from surface tension. If anytime during the fight they have backup arrive, or you just think you're going to lose, you're going to kick in that Riptide and hightail it out of there and fight to live another day. Your secondary combo is going to start the exact same way, but once you have them in that geyser, you're going to throw in the emergence. In group fights, just stay on the outskirts, hitting enemies with turrets. You're going to throw the geyser into the middle of the fights, and what I like to do is actually take Riptide across the fight and try to get behind them. And if you have emergence, of course you're just going to throw that into the middle of the fight. If you need to heal yourself, it is very easy to end up healing someone else because they've ran by you or in front of you. So what I always do is quickly look up or down before casting the heal to ensure that I'm the one getting healed. If you're playing with a friend or a group of friends and you don't feel you really need that escape option at 4, you can change out for either Wet Blanket or Wave Shock. If the other team is primarily range characters who are going to run, I would go with Wet Blanket. And if they are melee characters who are going to advance, take Wave Shock. I never go with a group healing build on capture matches with Alani. It just seems like no matter what people's intentions are, they almost always end up getting split up. You have two guys over here, you have one guy over here, so it just never really seems to work out. For a more group healing focused build that I use on Incursion and Meltdown maps, I'm going to swap out the gear and go for some heal power gear and something with cooldown on it. At 1, I take Splash Zone. I'm not going to be using that geyser as a CC. I'm using it as a heal, placing around players that do need to be healed. So in this build, what we're doing is we're kind of flip-flopping. We're going to use the geyser as a heal, and then Riptide's going to be our main source of damage. At 2, again, I take Surface Tension. At 3, I'm taking Go With The Flow, which is reducing all my cooldowns. At 4, I take Wave Shock because most of those intense battles are going to be at choke points. So you can throw that wave out there, which is going to blanket everyone and do damage over time. And it's going to heal the players on your team. At 5, Full Saturation. At 6, Refresher again. At 7, Pressure Wash. So you can be stacking up that osmosis faster and taking advantage of that full saturation. At 9, Stagnant Pools, which is going to leave your Riptide laying out there just a little bit longer, doing just a little bit more damage. At 10, Deep Song or Transpiration. This is just your prototypical healer build. You're going to stay at the back of the fight, throwing out torrents to keep your osmosis up so you can be dishing out those big heals. Take into consideration, though, you can heal minions and thralls with Wellspring. This does sometimes make it difficult to heal the player you want to heal, so that's why I'm relying on Geyser and Emergence as area effect heals. You're just going to throw Riptide up through those choke points to do that damage over time with Shockwave. Overall, Alani was really fun to play. I don't think I played another character that your choices in equipment and helix powers have such a huge effect on matches. For her just being a free character, you can tell that they put a lot of time and effort into her. So that's all I have for now, guys. Please let me know your thoughts on Alani and any strategies or builds you have found to be useful. Hit that like button and have a good one.